Do some video too, Maya.
Good afternoon, beautiful black people. I am here with Ladonia and Taria from CJAF, Community Justice Action Fund. How y'all ladies doing today?
It's good.
Feeling
It's
good.
good. We're good.
It's so good to have y'all here. These are some women that we love, and we love the work that y'all are doing in the community and around the country. So can y'all tell us a little bit about the campaign that y'all have going on right now, the End Gun Violence campaign, and the significance of it?
Absolutely. So, End Gun Violence 365 is we want to end gun violence every single day of the week. And it's really crucial that we take the narrative back and humanize our pain of that of Black and brown people and let people know that no, there's not always criminal activity associated to gun violence in our communities. And so we really want to speak to that. And this digital campaign helps us to change that because we're getting the stories of those who are closest to the pain and who have been mostly impacted.
Yeah. And it's really approaching it from like a public health approach, right? As Ladonia said, we're taking away like the criminalizing it and really saying like, hey, no, this is not normal, but this is something that should be looked at that's impacting communities across the country.
Yes.
Right. So take away from it being criminal and look at it as a public health approach. How do we typically approach things that are public health issues, right? So as far as COVID goes, right? We put money in it. We did funding. We gave resources, right? We made sure that we did testing, all of those things.
Yep.
So this campaign really just highlights what resources we need and the pain as Ladonia spoke about.
Absolutely.
Resources would change the game when it comes to ending gun violence in our communities. I think that's the right approach to take with it, and that's why we definitely support it as Black with No Chaser. I mean, y'all kind of got the conference on fire right now. I mean, like 3:00 today, Quavo pulling up, y'all all coming through. Shout out to the home team and everything.
That's right.
But y'all have been doing even more work than that today. Like y'all have been working on actual policy issues. Can y'all get into that at all, or is that something you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Yeah. I'll take over the policy. We work on policy from a federal to state and local level.
Mhm.
So we have our federal, of course, we work within like the White House. We want to push funding there, but then we also do work on the state level, right? So we have different state advocates that focus on like the southeast, southern states, northeast is where I work, and we push things like funding, statewide office of violence prevention, those type of things. We want to make sure that whatever is needed in our communities is getting to our communities, and we're not just talking about it, but we're holding these elected officials to it.
Okay.
And not only are we not just talking about it, but our states team, they are all full of rock stars. We are in 13 states.
Okay.
Right? We are moving in 13 states and we have made an impact in every single state where community justice has met with leaders. We've created policy, policymakers for peace. We have really been about the work because we know that communication and education is going to help to save lives.
I think these ladies are two of the dopest dynamic leaders around the country right now. And I know y'all can't smell them, but they smell exquisite. Like it's ridiculous. But yeah,
That's that Black girl magic.
we're looking forward to supporting y'all. I know y'all got to get out of here at 3:00 so y'all can go, get set up and everything. We appreciate y'all taking the time, and we'll definitely be connecting with y'all again. Okay.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, ladies.
For having us.
All right.
Thank
Peace,
you.
y'all.
Period.
Yes, y'all did that.
slow countdown.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning into this special Black with No Chaser news coverage of the 52nd annual legislative conference for the Congressional Black Caucus. We are joined now with Andrew Jacobson. He is an attorney, an adjunct professor, a Washington Informer contributor, special assistant to the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities. You've also got your own art studio or art setup, Balmoré, is that right?
Yeah, Balmoré art.
Yeah, so you've got a lot going on. So we want to talk to you a little bit about the panel that you're about to do in about a half an hour on the power, the art of storytelling and shaping urban futures. So tell us a little bit about that concept, like how should we be thinking about that and how can storytelling really make a difference there?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. A friend of mine who's an Amazon lobbyist approached me probably 6 months ago. And he said, I think there's a really exceptional intersection between art and storytelling, the narratives created by visual art. I know that you're really involved with the arts, Andrew. Can you come in and help? And from there, he kind of connected me with some people over at Audible. They had a project in Newark that they had done with a Harriet Tubman public art exhibition that was accompanied by tracking software to measure foot traffic in the area, and then also an Audible, storytelling component with an audiobook. And so that was associated with the project. They had done that in collaboration with the city of Newark. Mayor Ross Baracco is part of the panel. Aisha Glover ran point on that from Audible. She's their urban innovation vice president. And so from there, they reached out to me to help curate the panel. I brought in art collector, Smithsonian American Art Museum board member, and Destination Crenshaw board member, Dr. Joy Simmons, and also visual artist and all around creative Derek Adams.
Awesome. Really cool stuff.
I guess what are you hoping that the attendees take away from this panel? What are some of the key points that you're hoping that they leave with?
Yeah, well, I think there's a really important social narrative that needs to be conveyed and transmitted to the general public about the benefit of public art, how art can contribute to urban revitalization, previously kind of economically challenged areas that lost the vibrancy over a number of years of just being in disrepair and frankly being ignored, can be revitalized with the installation of art and then the support of the community. The art drives the foot traffic, which ultimately drives the resuscitation of local business, which drives real estate development and investment, people living and wanting to be in the community as opposed to being a blight or a public nuisance.
Awesome.
And so how did you first get into this and how long have you been sort of doing this work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I started off in visual art about a decade ago. I got really interested in contemporary art, started going to a lot of art fairs, collecting myself, then working as an art dealer, an art advisor with clients. And from there, I was also funding my art collecting with real estate investment. And so it was kind of the natural progression of things as I learned more about the art market and learned more about public art and learned more about how creatives think about real estate and spaces and how they can activate a space. I thought to myself as I was teaching at Georgetown, this would be a great way to kind of revitalize, downtowns post-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And, Derek Adams, longtime friend and collaborator, had reached out about the Last Resort Artist Retreat. So that's a plug for Derek. He and I work in Baltimore on that project together. And as that kind of came about and I saw how he had invested in a community that he had grown up in, he had invested his own money and kind of did the antithesis of what a developer would do. He didn't underwrite the deal on the front end. He didn't come in and figure out, well, how are the economics going to be feasible? He said, you know what, this is something that needs to happen. I'm going to vote with my wallet, developed it himself, and then created the nonprofit infrastructure on the back end, and then brought in the grant money and the support from, national and international contributors. So it's truly an organic process. And watching that transpire, it gave me the inspiration to work on this panel and to bring other narratives across the country to life in partnership with Audible.
Gotcha. And we see that you also brought your son with you.
I did.
And you bring him with you. Although he didn't want to join us
tried to
here,
get him on.
up here. He was too cool for us. But talk a little bit about, why you bring him with you and what you're hoping that he will get out of, these
Yeah.
experiences with you.
I think exposure is really key. When he was younger, I used to take him with me. I was a financial advisor for 6 years. I worked at Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, and then Wells Fargo Advisors. I had my own practice, and I would take him as a single dad at the time. It was like, we would go to the Senate, House buildings, Federal Reserve, anywhere. I would take him with me because I wanted him to gain that exposure, and to see people that looked like us doing things that were material and making important contributions in society. And I think he'll be the better for it. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to bring him there and to things like this so that he can just see how incredible we are as a people and what we can accomplish.
Awesome.
I guess the question that I had, how did you get connected with the Congressional Black Caucus Convention? Is this your first time attending this year?
This is my first rodeo in a formal capacity. I've been coming for years, just as an attendee, listening, learning, but I'm super grateful to Audible and that whole team. Big shout out to Brian Quinn, to Yvonne Durant, and everybody else who made it possible for me to be here today.
And do you have any projects coming up? Like any upcoming projects?
I have no shortage of projects.
I guess tell us a little bit more about your art. Is it fair to call it an art studio?
No, it's actually an art media company. So I think what a lot of people focus on, I hear a lot of podcasts, a lot of interviews between artists and interviewers, and all the conversation and dialogue is around like their practice and how they make work and how they got into the business. And I was like, there's a gap as far as the business of art is concerned. There's no opportunity to hear about how do you navigate working with galleries? How do you navigate getting your work into museums? Is it better to go to art school? Is your trajectory more commercial art? Or are you trying to be a fine visual artist? All these unanswered questions. And people would come to me all the time as they would see me on the periphery of these events. So I said, hey, you know what? Let me start disseminating this information. And so about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I started collaborating with my partner, Serene Sock, and we put together Balmoré art, which is named after my son. His middle name is Balmoré, so that's kind of the legacy component behind what we're doing. So it's all very organic and intentional. And so as we take these talks and gain more momentum, we're just trying to bring more information to people so that they can make more informed decisions and start participating in the economics of contemporary art.
I think that is as an artist at one point in time myself, I think that is so necessary, especially for our communities, because we are full of creativity. We have so much to share, but when it comes to actually making a living and making those connections and turning our art and our creativity into money and into a lifestyle, that is always the missing thing. So I think that's really important work that you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's crazy because it's we are the culture, right? Everybody's monetizing what we produce. And so to me, it's crazy that we're not the economic beneficiaries of that. Even with Black art, I see the proliferation of Black art in popular culture now. I see people starting to collect that previously were disinterested. And, are we really participating as fully as we can be in and reaping all the benefits that we can from this moment? Because for so long we were overshadowed, particularly in a museum and institutional setting, the underrepresentation of Black artists, the underrepresentation of women, so many other ethnic groups that were just not included, right? And so I feel like now is the time, and you see it on a national scale. Just the other day, the vice president had a reception at our home with a number of artists, Glenn Leon, Hank Willis Thomas, all these spectacular artists. Carmen Neely was there, and they had Thelma Golden from the Studio Museum in Harlem, up on the panel. I mean, that's just incredible.
Right.
And so, capitalizing on that momentum, today, Mayor Brandon Scott of Baltimore City announced his executive panel for arts and culture. He did executive order. So just happy to be here in this moment.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, Andrew.
Where can we find you? Where can people watching catch you on the socials?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, Balmoré Art. So it's spelled like Baltimore with no TI. It's BALMORE_ART. And you can catch me on my personal social, which is Andrew S. Jacobson, SON, on Instagram.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much again for joining us. We don't want you to be late. I feel like we could talk about this a lot more, but thanks again for stopping by our booth. And for all of you all listening out there, we will wrap up right now, but we will be back at the top of 3 o'clock. So make sure you tune in. We have some exciting and interesting interviews happening then. And in the meantime, if you're listening on Black with No Chaser Radio, just sit back, relax, and listen to the music. All right. We'll see you guys at 3.
Thank you,
Bye.
Andrew.